Hey, how's it going, guys? All right, so there's a couple things we're going to be doing today. We're going to create some custom inspectors, and today's topic isn't level management. We've handled that already. Let me change this text here for a second. This is going to actually be custom inspectors. There we go. Hopefully that updates and changes on the stream. I have no idea if it will. So let's see here. All right, can you guys hear me okay? Everyone can hear me okay? So, and if you're watching, I've been checking out the game jam submissions, and I had a meeting the other day with Unity too. This jam theme is connections, and the submissions so far are just out of this world. So I think in terms of complexity and improvement and innovation, this jam is the best by far for submission quality. I mean, you can just see the improvements. Some people, for example, Ryan and Mary, just out of this world submissions. And I think OJ Zach is doing something incredibly cool too. And I saw our previous Game Jam winner, I think his name is pronounced Gambler. His submission was pretty neat as well. So it's gonna be cool. Ryan, our community manager, is taking over the game jams. So he's gonna be doing the award ceremony live stream, and then afterwards he's actually gonna be creating a highlight reel. That's gonna be a 7-minute video recap, and it's gonna be a neat system. And he's definitely the right person to be taking it over. Let's see here. Can everyone hear me okay? Just want to make sure everyone is good here. He's going to be doing the award live. Cool. And let me check the restream chat. You guys can't see that. So 1 second here. There you go. Should be able to see that now. Update. Let's see. All right, so what we're going to be working on, guys, Al and I have been working on this. I'll show you guys where we currently are with this game. And this is the game we create in course 3 if you're interested in that, if you don't have it. Channel. Okay. So here, doing a few things here. So you can see our player. I don't know what happened to our sprite here, but why it's off. So let me go ahead and run this game, show you guys what we have. All right, we'll silence that. All right, so here's what we got. So we created a boss battle, and we can go ahead and get in here. We triggered this gate to close, shuts that one. We got this whole boss here. All right, so and then he can. All right, and let him do his jump thing. So, and if we die from him, all right, we have the system in place where we can continue with an ad, and it resets the boss. So, and then we can redo this again. So, some of the tools that I've created recently for Al. No, my brother's wedding is this weekend, and if I shave now, I get in this awkward stage of, I can't shave for the wedding, so no, you're gonna have to deal with this. I cannot grow a beard. it's just that awkward stage of Friday I need to shave and today's Wednesday, and it's just an awkward stage. So all right, so what I'm going to do here, we created some systems for Al to be able to do this. So we have two things in here. One of the things we created is a checkpoint system early on, and we demonstrated how to create that live, and we extended it a bit to include the ability to add a boss level. So one of the things I want to do here, because when we restart the boss scenario, it's a prefab where we're reinstantiating the entire scene. So in order to do that, we check, is this a boss level? And if it is, I want Al to be able to assign a boss level prefab. If you uncheck this, I don't want him to assign anything. So we're going to create a custom inspector that's going to display this information. And then also, we created a system that allows Al to plug and play to trigger a bunch of different events. And that is called triggered events. So if we find here, we have inside of our boss level, we created a system called a trigger event. So Al can add as many trigger events as he wants, and he can determine what type of event he wants to create. So when you trigger this, what's it going to do? Is it an animation, audio, music, or an activation trigger? And based on that information, let me revert that. Based on that information, I want to display the specific fields. So we need to make it so that if it's an animation trigger, he's only going to see the animator component to attach with the trigger name. He's not going to see anything else. If he chooses an audio, he's only going to be able to do an audio clip. All right, so and then if he wants to do multiple triggers, he can just attach multiple trigger scripts. So this functionality basically allows Al to do plug and play to where he can just add these and things just work. All right, it's really beautiful. One of the other things here too is communication objects. So if he wants to communicate with an object, he can select a game object that he wants to communicate with. He'll be able to attach it, and then he'll be able to add a delay from calling that object. All right, so he should only see those properties if it's selected as an object. All right, so we're going to create custom inspectors for this live. All right, so pretty new to custom inspectors, so you're going to see what the thought process is and how I go about learning how to do this in real time. Let's see here. All right, so we've already dabbed with custom inspectors already. So we have, what did we create for that? We created something with custom inspectors. I don't even remember what it was. Oh, right, it was the moving platform system. All right, so we're gonna do something very similar to that. So inside here we have an interface. We have our triggered events thing here. And inside the editor folder, we're going to create a triggered events editor. All right, so we're going to do this one first. So we're going to create a new C# script. This is going to be trigger events editor. Trigger event or triggered events. Triggered events editor. So we got our triggered events editor. Let me see here, 1 second, guys. All right. And then what do we got next? We have our triggered events editor. And now we can go ahead and just draw over the custom inspector. So in order to do this, we need to say using Unity editor or unityengine.editor, I believe. Is it using Unity editor? There we go. We're going to inherit from editor. All right, and if we open up our other one, we can see kind of what we need to do. So I'm going to open up the moving platform editor. Moving platform. There we go. All right, and then let's see here what we've done here. So let's see. All right, so how do we override the current inspector? We use public override void on inspector GUI, and then we can draw the base. So that's where we're going to start. All right, so here we're going to use public override void on inspector GUI and calling base.start. Now, if we save this, nothing's going to happen. We actually have to pick a target. And if we look at our moving editor here, how do we do that? We basically get the script and call it target. And then here we say custom editor type of the type it is. And then this is how we access the components on that script. So here we are going to do exactly that. So here, this is going to be custom editor type of. All right, so here we have custom editor. We're going to do type of, and this is a type of triggered events. All right, that's going to allow us to create custom editor for that. And then to actually get information from it, we need to then say in override, we're going to say moving platform or whatever triggered events for us. So here, triggered events, and we'll call this triggered events, we'll call this TE or underscore, we'll just lowercase trigger events equals, and we'll say target, and then we cast it as a triggered event. So triggered events. All right, we'll go ahead and save that. And that looks exactly like what we did here. All right, so triggered events. We'll save this. And if I don't call the onInspector or the base here, like if I comment this out here, you'll see now that on the triggered events, Al's not going to see anything. All right, so if we go into the boss area here, and let's make sure that is compiling. Looks like I have an error. One sec. Missing a parenthesis. All right, so Unity is going to compile. And here we have some triggered events here. Al's not going to see anything in the inspector anymore. And there you go. All right, so there's nothing to be seen here. All right, so nothing to be seen. So what do we want to do now? We need to then display some fields. All right, so one of the fields, the most important field here is if we actually look inside this triggered event script, is there's an enum here for event type. Based on the event type that Al selects is going to determine which data to display. All right, so if we look at our moving platform editor, how did we do things like that? We created labels, label fields for platform properties, and then here is how we actually display things. So we said, we access the script, we say whatever the current selection is equals this information. All right, so we're going to basically display an enum here. So let's go ahead and just check this out here. How can we do that? We have a begin horizontal. I'm just trying to see here everything we're doing. Here's a button that we added, np.add waypoints. And if we look here, we had to add a bunch of properties to everything. So I believe we had fields, we had serialized fields, and then we had a bunch of properties as well. Because I think we were running into save issues. So everything needs to be serialized in order for it to save. So let's just see here what we were doing. Private. If we look at triggered events here, everything currently, Al may have to reset everything up because everything is public right now. We do want these to all be private. Okay, so let's go ahead and just get this enum displayed currently. So how can we do that? So what we can do here is we're going to basically say editor GUI layout.label field. And that's going to allow us to create a label field. And let's see here. That's platform properties, triggered events. So here, let's start there. All right, so here we're going to say editor GUI dot label field. And we're going to say triggered events. And then here we can just say, what is it? Bold text. How did they do that? Editor styles dot bold label. So editor styles dot bold label. All right, we're gonna start there. And I don't know what it doesn't like. Let me see, label field. Style to string. Oh, it's editor GUI layout, that's why. Here is editor GUI layout. All right, so if we save this and head back over to here. All right, you'll see here that we have a triggered events title once it's finished. Actually, I'm not seeing that. Where is that? Oh, I wonder if we need to provide it that pixel space. So GUI layout space, let's try that. Let's see here, GUI layout. All right, so editor GUI layout dot space. Let's add 20 pixels. And then have a label field for triggered events. Hey, thanks, Epic. Appreciate it, man. Okay, hold on, got an error here. Okay, don't specify the PX. We'll save that. And it is just GUI layout. All right, so one of the things I'm not 100% sure about is how to display the enum in the editor. So we're gonna go ahead and look up a custom editor layout for enums. All right, so I don't know why we're not getting that label. I'm wondering if it has something to do with, I'm not 100% sure. Let me see. Because we don't want to do base on inspector GUI here. Here, hang on. Let's add a label here just to make sure that we can actually customize this. So here we're going to add a GUI layout or a label. All right, it's going to be waypoints. And let's just test this out. Say test. All right, and then we're also going to just append to this some information from our target class. All right, so here we're going to say triggered events. Dot, let's go ahead and say trigger name just to grab something. All right, let's see what that does. It is not drawing anything. Why not? In order for it to draw, I shouldn't have to call the base, because if I do the base, it's gonna add this information in. But if I add it back in, it should draw. Let's see. Okay, and it's not. What's it doing? Save that. Hey, what's up, Garfang? How's it going, dude? So I don't know why. Let's see here. Where is our close gate trigger? Okay, here we go. So here at the bottom is our triggered event stuff. I don't know why. Oh, here we go. Okay, now it's updated. That was really weird. All right, so here's our triggered event stuff. So let me see what happens here now if I actually remove this base.gui. I think it just hadn't updated because I was standing on it. So now it should just say triggered events. This is a test. Okay, there we go. So here it says triggered events. This is a test. Perfect. All right, so we have our labels here. All right, so we have a label field triggered events. And what we want to do here is event type is the first one, okay? So we're going to say event type, and then we want to list the enum so that Al can select something. So we need to look up here. Let's do custom editor unity enums. How do we display that? Okay, there's an enum pop-up. Perfect. All right, so this is actually for an editor window. We don't want that. Although it might be very similar. So let's see here. Okay, they're just doing enum pop-up. I bet you it's very similar for, oh no, here, it's just editor GUI layout. Perfect. All right, so check this out. So we are going to basically say here, triggered events. We're gonna add 20 pixels, and then here, underneath triggered events, we'll say GUI layout dot space. Let's add 5 pixels. And then here we're going to say editor GUI layout see. Editor GUI layout. And what do we want to do here? Editor GUI layout dot enum pop-up, right? Oh, interesting. Okay, hold on. Enum master. So the method is obsolete. Use editor GUI enum flags field. Displays a menu with an option for every value of the enum type when clicked. An option for the value 0 with name nothing, and an option for the value approximately 0 that is bit set with the name everything as always displayed on top of the menu. And then here we have enum pop-up. Make an enum pop-up selection field. That's exactly what we want. All right, so what do we pass in here? We need to pass in the enum selected and then the options. So it says system.enum selected. Make an enum pop-up. So let's go back to the documentation, see how they use this. And here they have an enum of options. So we already have our enum of options. And then here they're using the code saying options equals enum pop-up primitive to create and then your options. So the title and then the options. So here this is going to be event type. And then here the event type options, which are triggered events dot event types, event type. All right, and if we look in that script here, triggered events, we have an enum called event type, and I have a variable here called event type, which stores the current event type. All right, so let's go ahead here. And then I believe I need to assign that to it. So actually what we're gonna wanna do here is that needs to be the actual enum. So inside of our triggered events editor, this needs to not be event type. This actually needs to be trigger events dot capital event type to get the enum. And it looks like I can't actually access that for some reason, unless it's going to be trigger events class dot event type. There we go. So that's the actual enum, which is not valid. Okay, so it actually does want the lowercase one. Interesting. So let's see here. Event type, and then we need to assign this to the actual event. So we're going to say trigger events dot event type is going to equal the editor GUI layout enum pop-up. All right, and it's giving me errors here because it needs to be cast probably. And we're going to cast that to the event type. So this is going to be trigger events and dot event type. All right, and that needs to be capital T. Why? The type or namespace name trigger events could not be found. Oh, it's triggered events. Okay, let's save that and see if it works. So what we can do now is based on which one of these selections Al checks. So check this out. Al's going to be able to add a triggered event script, and it's going to say event type. Based on what he selects here, we're going to display the appropriate fields. All right, so if he selects an animation event, what does he need to be able to do? So let's go ahead and look at the actual functionality of that script. I'm going to go ahead and close everything else. I'm going to need that editor script back up, but let's see here. Player, just get rid of all this stuff. Here, give me a moment, guys. Let me just close everything here. Too much. Oh, I don't know how to mass close this. Why not? Close all documents. All right. So everything's closed. Let me go ahead and just open up what we're working with. All right, so we're going to open up triggered events. And we want the moving platform script, and we want the actual editor for triggered events. So triggered events, we're going to open up the editor. So we will open up, let's see, here we have triggered events editor. All right, and then we also want the actual platform. So platform, moving platform, editor. Okay, just so we can reference something. Okay, so what needs to happen when we select animation, right? When we select animation, we need to basically say, hey, go ahead and display the appropriate stuff. All right, so to do that, basically what we can do here is say, we're gonna switch between the triggered event types. All right, so we're gonna create a switch statement here, and we're gonna say switch between trigger events dot event type. All right, and based on that information, we're gonna display the appropriate information to Al. So if we look here, we have triggered events in our functionality, and what happens if it's the actual animation event. So here we're already switching through an event type. If case is event type.animation, all we're doing here is passing in an animator reference. All right, so that's what we need to do here. So switch target events.event type will create a case for the triggered events dot animation event. Event type dot animation. All right, so here we have a case for that. Add a break. And what happens if it's set to the animation? We need to basically create a editor GUI layout. I don't know what the difference honestly between editor GUI and GUI layout There's so many different ones. I think we can use GUI layout. Let's try editor first. Here we're gonna say, let me see how we did that in moving platform editor. Hey Cryub, greetings from Germany. You are awesome. Thanks, dude. Welcome to the stream. Let's go ahead here and see how we can create a field for us to actually add an object. So we did this for Al to be able to drag in things like game objects. I believe. Did I not create that? So let's go ahead and look at the GUI layout in Unity here. So let's open up our doc and let's type in, let's go to editor GUI, which I think we're in right now. And let's see what options we have here. I want to basically be able to create a field for him to input information or to drag an object. All right, so we have vector fields. Let's go into editor GUI. We have drop downs, we have help boxes, we have fields. And essentially we are creating a field, but these are type fields, right? These are for ints and bools and floats. I want to see a custom one to like, how would we add a drop at like a game object, for instance? Let's see. All right, let's check out GUI layout. So we can begin an area, begin a button. Okay, so this is definitely more for just layout stuff, not for actual inputs. Okay, cool. All right, so let's see here. We're going to do custom editor. Oh, you know what, actually? I want to say we might actually just be able to do this. Inside our triggered events editor, we might be able, although no, because we have to create a field here. Although we probably could. Hang on, let's see here. I want to display basically a custom game object variable. Let me see here. Custom game object field Unity. Okay, here we go. Editor GUI.object field. And then here we can type object type. Okay, cool. So find dependency, soldier, yada yada. We can basically say here they're doing editor GUI.object field. I don't want to specify a rec though. Let me see here. So let's just try that though. We'll do editor GUI. We'll say editor GUI dot, and actually, you know what? Let's get the variable first. So we're going to say here triggered events dot the animator field, right? So here we're going to pass in an animator. So if we look at that, and let's make sure that's the case. So here we have a variable for Al to drop in an animator, right? Which is called anim, which is what we want. So inside of here, we're going to say triggered events editor, triggered events.anim is going to equal whatever Al assigns in the editor. So here we're going to say editor GUI, possibly layout, dot object field. So here we have 10 options here. Make a field to receive any object type. The object reference property of the fields below. Here we have an object type of. Here we have just serialized property. I don't know actually know. Okay, here we go. Okay, let's try this. All right, so here we might be able to add a field. So let's go ahead and say, we'll say animator. All right, so here we'll say animator controller. And then here, object type is going to be of type animator. And then I don't know what system.type is, but that should be like type of animator. And then the params, I don't actually know what to put there, but one second, I'm curious to see if I can just do this. Can I? What does it want? Interface control the mechanism animation. Animator is a type which is not a valid given context. I take it I can't just do type of animator, because that would make sense. Hold on, let's look at some of the options. I need to see custom inspector animator field. Here we go. All right, your script reference, yada yada, equals editor object field. Your script reference dot your animation and script type of animation false. Okay. Is there another field I have to add here? Parameters. I don't know if I can just type false. Why would that work? This here is saying type of animation false, and then he's casting it as an animation, but it's not giving me a cast error. Cannot convert from string to Unity object. I take that back. It is giving me a cast error. So here we can say as animator, but I don't know why we have this false thing here. Yeah, no, not growing a mustache here. Let's see, type of, why? What is it not like? Let's say help please with animation component public properties custom inspector. All right, so here has probably changed, yada yada, and this isn't really what we want. Okay, here we go. Let's see this. Editor GUI layout object field. None object. All right, so what are they doing? They're saying source equals object field, which is the source. Oh, interesting. Okay, source type of object and true. Okay, I don't know what the true variable is. What is that? Oh, allow scene objects. Okay, yes, we do want to allow scene objects. Okay, cool. So check this out. We should just be able to do this then. Just to double check here. The source is the actual source. Interesting. So this is going to be triggered events dot anim, type of animator, and then here we do want to be able to drag scene objects to get the animator component. So we're going to say true. All right, and it doesn't like it because it sucks, but let's see what it wants. So now it's trying to use a cast. So we're going to say as animator, and now we're good. So let's check this out. All right. So if Al wants to create an animation type event, so are these live programming courses going to be the extended content? Oh, hey, Iceman. So these live programming courses, some of them will be, some of them won't be. A lot of the polish for the game is going to be extended content. Things I'm doing now, like custom editors and stuff like that, there's going to be an entirely, there's going to be a whole course on things like this. This is more so just to give you guys the opportunity to check out how a software engineer programs live, how I solve problems, how I use the documentation. And pretty much just what it's like to, to create things like this. And that worked. Check this out. Event type, none animator. Now watch what happens if I do audio. There's nothing. So Al is going to be able to select the event type. If he selects animation, he's going to be able to specify the animator. And then everything's just going to work. He's not going to have to worry about anything. One of the things I want to do here is I like how it's displayed in the current inspector. So let's go ahead here, and I'm going to, this is triggered events. I'm going to remove our label here. And just so we can see it, I'm going to add the base dot on inspector GUI, because I want to see what it looks like. All right, so here we have our custom editor. I'm just going to disable that for a second. Refreshing to see you have to look stuff up and struggle like us normal people. Yeah, no, there's no such thing as a software engineer knowing everything. And as software engineers, you're not expected to know everything, right? At the end of the day, a professional software engineer is a professional Googler. Knowing how to ask and research the right questions so that you can solve your problems is super important. Yeah, custom fields, yeah. Yeah. So custom editors are a lot of fun to create, and they're super useful. Very helpful. All right, so here's how the current thing looks. So you pick your event type, and it currently looks like that for us. And then here it says anim, and then it has a property field. So we want to do exactly that. All right, so I'm going to hide the I'm going to hide the base one. And right now we have here, we have our event type, which looks like that. So we can select an event type. And then here we're going to add, I want to add the anim. So in order to do this, I believe I have to say, we have to add like a label field here. So let me see how we can do that. I think we did something similar for the moving platform. Yeah, we created like a horizontal thing where we had a button, but we don't want that. Although maybe we do actually. Yeah, so we're going to create a horizontal group to do that. So inside our editor here, if the triggered events is the event type animation, we're going to basically create a horizontal group. So we're going to say GUI layout dot begin horizontal group. And then we have to end the horizontal group. So GUI layout dot end horizontal. All right, so inside here, before we allow out to drag something, I want to add a GUI layout dot label. And I basically want it to say, I don't want to give it any parameters. So how do I do that? I just want to add a label. We want to say GUI layout, and we're going to say anim. All right, and if we save this, let's see how that looks. All right, so here we go. Check it out. And that's exactly what we want, right? So one thing I can do now is I would like possibly this rect here to be the appropriate size, so that's stacked underneath the animation if I wanted to be picky. So we'll try it, but I'm not super concerned about it. However, check it out. Al wants to have an event type of type animation. Now he has an anim property that drops down, and he can select an animator to put in there. Looking at this, let's see if we can go ahead and space that more to the right. Is this game dev channel yours, or is this part of a team you work for? Yeah, this game dev channel is mine. So we are forming Game Dev HQ. The team consists of myself, Al, and Ryan Rockwell, who's our community manager. And you'll be able to use this. You'll be able to find a bunch of content. Right now we're going through some branding stuff, so you'll be able to see everything here. Defiant Lobster Games is just it's a game studio that Al and I run for our personal game projects, which is why you see this overlay here. But yes, this will be all the Game Dev HQ stuff, and we just use it to stream right now some of our other things. Let's see. So here we have our anim, and I think in order to push it back, what we can do is add, I probably can control the rect of this, honestly. I just don't know the rect of what the other thing is, but I think we might be able to add pixels here. So if I were to say, what is it, GUI layout dot space, and let's add like 20 pixels. Let's see what that's gonna do. That should add spacing to the right of this, between anim and the none. Let's see. And it did, it moved it. So let's go ahead and just add like maybe 40, maybe 60. All right, and you'll see it creep along here. Oh, we're so close. All right, maybe 70. So that way we get that really nice custom fit and feel. Let's see. Almost there. Maybe like 80. All right, and then once we're done with this, we're gonna wanna test everything. We wanna make sure that all the functionality works. So all the fields for this are public, so everything should just work out of the box. When we were doing the editor thing, a lot of things were private. And now that I think about it, these need to be private as well. So we're gonna optimize this here. Let's see. Okay, that looks pretty damn good. I'm happy with that. All right, so we select audio. There's no options. If he wants to create an animation event, he can then add the controller for the animation that he wants. I don't remember. Gates have closed trigger. I'm not 100% what this was supposed to do again. And if we look here, these are now all screwed up. So Al is going to have to help me live to tell me what I need to fix here. But we'll have to fix that. Let's go ahead and continue and create the next one. So we have animator. Now let's go ahead and create an audio one. So what do we need to display for audio? If we look at the actual functionality of this, we can go to triggered events. All right, let's look at it. So inside here, we have an audio type. And if the type is audio, all we're doing here is we're instantiating an audio clip. So we just want to do the exact same thing, but allow Al to drag in an audio clip. So now that we have one down, it should be much easier to actually create this. One of the things we're going to do here is we will hop into our triggered events editor. We have our case here. We'll go ahead and just duplicate the case. Wow, what did I just do? Hang on. Do that. I don't know what it's complaining about. We're going to go ahead here. We're going to duplicate. Wow, I'm like running this somehow. Hold on. Duplicate the case. All right, this is going to be animation type or event type of audio. Here, we're going to add a clip. And the object type is going to be type of audio clip. And we're going to cast it as an audio clip. If we save this, we should get the exact same results. So a custom inspector is basically rewriting the default property drawer on Unity. So check out this rigid body here. You see how all these are default when you apply rigid body? I'm creating a custom one to clean up what Al sees. There's a certain way I want it to function and look, and I'm creating a custom version of it. All right, so here we have an error because I didn't cast it properly. And it's just because it didn't actually save. Oh, that's right. Trigger events.anim needs to be trigger events.audio. And then here, trigger events.audio as well. All right, so we assign the triggered events audio equal to whatever Al assigns it in the inspector. Trigger events.audio has audio clip. Why? What's it not like? Triggered events. No, that should work. What's it doing? Let's see here. Oh, this is the audio source attached to the object. Interesting. Hold on. Wow, what is happening here? What's the benefit of it? It's that, here, I'll show you. So the benefit of it is so that Al can cleanly develop this, can cleanly add triggered events, and I'll show you a demonstration of that in a second. All right, hold on. I gotta fix these errors. Yes to all. I don't know why it just shit its pants like that. Event type, audio, triggered events, audio. We have an object field. Oh, whoops, what just happened here? Okay, triggered events dot audio. There we go. I don't know why that's doing that. Should just be able to replace that. Oh, right, okay, audio clip, that's why, guys, sorry. Audio clip, Okay. So here, so Iceman asks, what's the benefit of this, right? So let me show you how this is going to work. So we have two now. We have an audio and an animator problem. Yeah, exactly. I am making this plug and play for Al. So check it out. If Al wants to create an event type, and thanks for the sub, dude. If Al wants to create an event type, he can just now select which type of event does he want to create. Does he want to create an animation event? He can pass in the animator. Does he want to create an audio event? He can pass in the audio clip. Look what happens if I remove the custom inspector. If I were to comment everything out here, and I add back the default inspector, look what this looks like. It's so messy for him to add just an audio. He has all these properties that he doesn't care about because it's generically displaying everything. So what I'm doing is I'm cleaning it up to only display relevant information based on the triggered type. This is what it normally looks like in Unity. So look how many properties are here. No matter which type he wants, he has to add all this boring information that's comment all of our code. We'll save this. We'll look back into Unity and you'll see here it's so much cleaner and it allows Al to literally just plug and play. If he wants an object to have both an audio and an animation event, he can simply just specify that. So here he has an audio event and then here he has an animation event. He just attaches the appropriate information. If he also wants to include a music event, for example, he can do that. He can just add a triggered event script and he can go ahead and create a music event or an activation event. And it will display the proper information. So literally the term plug and play here. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. So here we have our audio one and we have our animator, our animation one. All right, so 2 down, let's go ahead and do our music one. So now for the music one, how does this work? If we go into the triggered events here, if you're doing everything on your own, you don't need one. I mean, technically, yeah, but it's also just better for me. It's better for you anyways. Think about it. You don't need to see all the options of a triggered event. So you might as well clean it up for yourself, but also it helps that Al can now just focus on what he needs to and not have to worry about looking through all the options for what he needs. All right, next is music. So how do we do music? Music requires... All right, so music has a few properties. We have an audio clip for music, and then here we have fade length and fade in length because he's swapping the audio track based on where you are in the level, right? We're having transition music based on this triggered event. So we need to create this, and we need to create this, and then music events needs to, so we need the audio clip, the fade out length, and the fade in length. And what else does he need? I think that's it. If we look at the music here, it's already handled for us through the switch audio track from the audio manager. All right, so we need to give him access to these 3 properties. All right, so let's go ahead here. We have our triggered events editor. And to do this one, this case is gonna be a little bit different because we have 3 things instead of 1. We're gonna copy the case. This next case is going to be music. So when he selects the music case, triggered events, event type, we have a music. The label for this is going to be his music. Space is 80. The audio clip is not going to be that. It's going to be music. Triggered events dot music. It's a type audio clip, audio clip. Let's save this. Make sure it looks okay. If I saw it right, you're using events.anim within your audio property. I should not be. Are you sure? All right, so here you go. So if we do an animation, we have animator, audio is looking for a clip, and music is looking for a music clip. Now we can add the fade in, fade out. So where did you see that error? Because I don't see that. Music, anim. Oh, I'm sorry, you're absolutely right. Yes, that needs to be audio clip because we're assigning whatever audio clip in the editor to the audio clip in the script. So thank you. All right, music gets assigned to music, audio clip, audio clip. Now we need to create another horizontal group to stack it, right? Because we don't want these all being stacked, so we're going to stack another one. For this, we're going to say GUI layout dot begin group, begin horizontal, and GUI layout dot end horizontal. And inside here, let's go ahead and add a GUI layout label. So here, GUI layout dot label, and this label is going to be for the fade in and fade out. So here we have fade out length, right? So here we're going to fade out the current track length. So how long do we want that to take? So we're going to say fade out length. And let's see here, fade out length. And then here we're going to add GUI layout dot space. And we'll set that to about 80 as well. All right, let's see how this looks. I don't know if Al is watching this. If he is, Al, let me know what you think of this so far. Let's see. All right, so for music, we have fade out length. All right, and now we need to add the slider. So what is that going to be? So here we have fade out length, and then we're gonna add 80 spacing, and then here I need to say triggered events dot fade out length is going to equal an editor GUI layout dot a slider, right? How do I do that? Here we go, slider. Make a slider that users can drag to change a value between a min and a max. Perfect. So here the value, which is going to be trigger events dot fade out length, followed by the left value, which is going to be 0, followed by maximum of 10 seconds. All right, let's save this and see how it looks. Sweet, Al approves. All right, let's check this out. So check that out. We have an animation event, an audio event. If he wants to create a music event, he can choose now the music clip, the fade out length, and he can slide it. All right, and then you can see here 80 was too much, so I'm going to reduce that a bit. And then let's go ahead and add the fade out length, or for the fade in length for the new clip. So I'm going to take this. We need to create another horizontal group. We're going to put that right here. And I'm going to organize this a bit more so it looks cleaner. This is going to be our fade in length. All right, and here this is going to be trigger events dot fade in length and fade in length. All right, so check that out. So this is literally going to allow Al to plug and play throughout the entire level. He'll create triggers, and based on those triggers, when the player walks into it, he can choose what's going to happen here by simply plugging and playing. There's no code required on his part. And that's the beautiful system that we created here. And we're just making it so that he can literally very easily plug and play this. And you'll see here, fade out length for the track, fade in length. If he wants an activation track, we'll do that next. Audio is going to play a clip. Animation is going to play an animator. Let's see what's next. Here we have audio clips, and I kind of want to see how the animator works because I forget the functionality. If it's an anim, what do we do here? Okay, yeah, so he's okay here. So we're not done with the anim. So Al can trigger an animator by the trigger name. We need a text property for that. So he sets the trigger name, which is just a string here. We need a field for that. So let's create that. So we're going to reverse a bit here. He has the anim label. We're going to create a new begin horizontal, end horizontal. And we're going to put that right here. This is going to be trigger name. And then this is going to be triggered events dot trigger name. It's going to be triggered events dot trigger name. So whatever he assigns in the editor here gets assigned to the script value here. This is going to be a type of string. It's actually not going to do editor object field. This is actually just going to be, editor GUI layout dot string. Is that a thing? Dot text field. And we're going to pass in trigger name and then the value that it's going to assign. So here we're going to say trigger events, I think actually, hold on. I want to say yes. Yes, we're going to assign whatever information he puts there from trigger events. We're going to assign it to the name value. I think that is correct. We'll have to double check. How did we do it in moving platform? Do we have a text field for him? I don't think so. How do we do the ints? Here we go. Spacing. Okay, it was a float field. Yeah, so float field. So the value of name gets changed to whatever we put here. That's a text field. And there's no string field. So, right, there's no string field. No, I think it is text field. All right, so we'll save that. Let's see how that looks. Let's see what we got next. Let's see. All right, here's our animation, and check that out. We have trigger name here, and this actually already saved. Give me 1 second, guys. All right, hang on. What do we want to do here? So we actually want to adjust the spacing here. So you can see here it says trigger name, and then it has 2 things now. We actually want to remove that because somehow it's already displaying trigger name, which is from this label here. So I actually don't need, this text field. So I want to set that to 0 or nothing if I can. Yeah, I would like that to be just a string. Let's see here. What's this do? Okay, perfect. That's exactly what we want. So what is this? Let's go ahead and bring that back. So right now it's at 80. Let's set that to about 70. And then I'll show you guys how we can actually clean this up a bit. Because right now it just looks like HTML markup text, basically. That's essentially how this works. If you're familiar with HTML, it just draws top to bottom. How'd that look with 70? Not enough. Set to 60. Wow, okay, it needs way more. Where is this? Trigger name. It's gonna be like 20 maybe? What's it doing? All right, there we go. So let's go ahead and just line that up a bit. So maybe like 5 pixels. So one thing I want to check here, I don't know why or how it automatically drew that information there. I want to make sure that it can't do that. I want it to be blank for L, so we'll go ahead and set something up for that. It's basically grabbing the default value. Okay, so we are so close, like what, another 5 pixels maybe? So custom inspectors are what people make when they have all the Unity asset game templates. Yeah, exactly. Basically, I'm creating a template here for Al to use. I'm cleaning up functionality. I'm making it look pretty, right? If I were to submit a tool to the asset store and I want it to be user-friendly, you use custom editors and inspectors to create user-friendly tools for developers or designers. See here. Let's see here what people make when they have all the Unity asset game templates. Let me see here. Sorry, guys. Okay, perfect. I got this lined up exactly how we want it. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to add another triggered events. And it is automatically displaying gates have closed trigger. And I do not know why that is, and we're going to fix that. One of the things I want to check here, though, is custom string inspector. I want to see how everyone else is doing it. I'm not sure if text field is the proper one. So showing a text area, no. Let me see what they do here. I don't see any string variables. Hold on. Drop down list showing a text area field for a string variable in inspector. That's your string. They're using... Okay, they're using just text area or text field. So I guess that is the proper way to do it. Okay, so why would it be grabbing whatever the default is? If I reset this, what's it going to do? So automatically it's saying gates have closed trigger. We need to fix that. Should not be that. Even when I reset it, gates have closed. So if we look here, public string trigger name. Let's see here. If we go into the actual triggered event script, trigger name is null by default. Let me just hard code it to null. Let that compile. Let's see. All right, here we go. I was going to create a music track. He's going to create an animation track. And it still has gates of close. And if we reset it, yeah, it is like getting hard coded in there. I do not know why. Can I change it? Yeah, we can change it up. Why would it be doing that? Trigger name, call trigger name, and then inside our events here, editor, we have trigger name, trigger events dot trigger name equals editor GUI layout dot text field. Hold on, can I just do this? Let's see here if it lets me do that. Okay, so it looks like I can do that. If I reset this, okay, interesting. So let's add a triggered event. Why? What is causing that? Really, really interesting. Here, let's try, let me attach this to a different object. So if we were to add a triggered event here. Oh, right, okay, hold on, required components. It adds, triggered events requires a box collider or collider 2D type. Let me just add one here. This is gates. All right, let's see here. Triggered events. Oh, interesting. Check that out. It's automatically grabbing. That is interesting. The string is getting the name of the object it's attached to. No idea why that is. I don't know how that's working. That is very interesting. That could be almost good in a sense. However, that's not what we want. So what we need to do here is if the animation type is animation, before we even set it to the text field, we're going to make sure that the trigger.name, let me see here, what is the options here? String text. We're going to make sure that it's null first. So here we're going to say, and this is going to run every frame, unfortunately, so we need to be careful about how we do this. Because we don't want to null it out. Shoot. How do we do that? Interesting. Let's see, custom string property, custom string inspector. Let's go to the editor GUI layout Unity. So I don't know how it's doing that. We need to figure that out. All right, let's see here. We have text fields int float. Make a delayed. Oh, what is this? Make a delayed text. Oh, delayed text. That's weird. Interesting. I've never used that before. Fields, float field, fall. Okay. Help box. Int field, int pop-up, int slider. Oh, here, label field. Make a label field. Okay, useful for showing read-only info. long field. Text field, make a text field. Okay, and that's all I see, so that must be it. Let me go and make a text area instead. How do we use text area? Specify it. Okay, here, let's try that. This is going to be a window, editor GUI layout, the object field, yada yada, text. Okay, text area, the text you're going to write, and then the height of it. So let's go ahead and try this. Editor GUI layout dot text area, and then GUI layout dot height settings. All right, so let's try that. So here's our trigger name. We're gonna assign that to editor GUI layout dot text area, and we're gonna pass in the data, which is trigger events dot trigger name, and we're going to say GUI layout. What was it? Height. The hell was that? GUI layout dot height. All right, and then here we can add float height in pixels, basically. So here we can just say 30 pixels. So let's see how that looks. See what that does. If we select the gates of closed trigger, we can see the updated field. All right, so now it has a trigger name here, and it's still using that one, but let's go ahead and click on gates here. I'm gonna need Al to probably recommit this scene because I'm totally messing up the scene here. Let's see. This is going to be triggered events. Okay, there we go. Now there's nothing here, so now we just need to fix that. So what I'm gonna do here is we're gonna make it 15 pixels high, and then we'll adjust the width as well. And check that out, perfect. If I reset it, that's exactly what we want. So we need to use text area. All right, so let's go ahead here. It needs to be about half more than that. So spacing needs to be, what is it? I don't even know. Does it need any spacing? 0, what is that gonna do? Let's get that looking clean. Oh, that's annoying. Don't do this. I want that to be where it is. Hold on. Okay, so here we're saying GUI layout dot height. Hang on. Let's make it width 30 pixels. What is that going to do? I might be able to control it this way. All right. Let's see. All right, that works. We'll do that. So that's 30 pixels. Let's make it probably what, like 180? Maybe more, maybe like 300, 400. Almost 240. So we also don't need this space here. We're not using it. All right, let's see what this space is. All right, so close. So we'll go ahead and make that about 280. So at this point, right, we're just like cleaning this up so that it's just clean and doesn't look cheap. I'm doing this for you, Al. Better appreciate it. 270. 70. Let's see. One, two. Thinking what else? All right, maybe about 5 more pixels. So about 265. And so close. All right, I think it's 267. I think that's gonna be good. Could be 1 more pixel actually. We'll see. What is that gonna do? Oh, damn it. All right, now we're good. It's 266. I'm happy with that. All right, so now we have this anim and trigger name. All right, so now Al can just select the animator, and then he can select the name of the animation on that animator component that he wants to trigger. So if he wants to trigger like 5 different animations, he can just select the event type and set the name. All right, name here. Okay, that's good. If we go to audio, he can just select the clip he wants to play. If we go to music, he then can select the music track to play. He can check the fade out length for the area, and then in the fade in length for the current clip. If we go to activation, he needs something there. So that's the last one to do. So if we go to activation here, what's the functionality? So activation is just simply turning on a game object. So here we have activation. Oh, dude, I did not, that's weird. I did not even include the functionality for that. So let's go ahead and create that so you guys can see how that works. So here's the event type. If he selects activation, right, that's just turning on a game object. So here we're going to create a new case. So this is going to be case event type dot activation. And if that's the case, then what needs to happen? We're going to basically say, grab whatever this object is inside of the activation. So we're going to give him a variable for it. So here we have callback options, we have events, we have activations. So this is going to be for activation events. We just want to take a game object and we're going to just turn it on. Public game object. And maybe we want to turn it off, right? So what we can do here is public game object. Let's say public game objects. This is going to be, we'll say game object. And actually we don't want to do that. That's a Unity's term. So we're going to say public game object. We'll say activation object or active object. Yeah, active object. All right. So whatever object is there, whether it's on or off, if it's on, then we're going to assume that Al wants us to turn it off. And if the object is off, we're going to assume that Al wants us to turn it off or turn it on. Now, if Al doesn't like that and he wants to add a bool, we can add that later. But for now, that's how it's going to work. So here, underneath the activation type, what we need to do is we need to turn this on based on the current status of that object. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to use a ternary operator. We're basically going to say that that active object dot set active needs to be true or false based on the current state. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say active object dot is active or active object dot active in hierarchy equals true. Now what happens if the object is true? What do I need to do? I need to set it to false, else I need to set it to true. All right, if the object is on, we want to turn it off. And if it's off, then we want to turn it on. And that's exactly what this line of code is doing. So here we have our active set object. So now we can go ahead and specify that. So we need to actually create a field now in our editor for it. So inside the triggered events here, we have music, we have audio, music, and animation. And inside here for triggered events, we have animation, audio, music, and activation. All right, so let's create that. So we're going to copy this case. And here, this is going to be activation track or activation. It's going to be active object. We'll give them 80 space, this, and we don't need anything else because it's just a game object. We need the GUI layout dot end horizontal. Save this. Just negate instead. What do you mean? I'm not 100% sure what you mean, Burke, but feel free to explain. Let's see. So trigger events dot, this is going to be active object equals editor GUI layout dot object field. The value that we assign is going to get assigned to active object. So here, active object, type of game object, and we're going to cast it as a game object. If we save this, it should work. I will probably have to adjust some of the settings, the view settings. All right, so check this out. We have event type activation, music activation, and now it's looking for an active object. All right, and let's go ahead and remove some of that pixel spacing. So let's make it about 70. And now what we can do is we're just going to go through, we're going to make this look perfect, and then we're going to go ahead and actually test out each of these scenarios to make sure they're working. They should work. Hey, Al, are you still connected? Go ahead and if you can make a scene change for me and just recommit your scene, just so I can pull it because I've adjusted the scene a bit. Oh, actually, you know what? You don't have to. I can just revert the scene. I'll do that. Let's see. Let's get that right. So maybe 40 pixels. All right, 40 pixels here. Come on. All right, and actually what we're going to do here, we're going to actually set this up from scratch so you can see how plug and play this will be for Al. It's insanely cool. All right, maybe a few more pixels off. Make this like 37. Active object dot set active. Oh yeah, I mean you could. Oh yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right, dude. You could do. Yes, you could just do the not true value there. Yes. And that essentially, for those who are wondering, that basically just gives you the opposite. If it's true, it's false. If it's false, it's true. And I think it's 2 more pixels. So let's set 35. All right, so here we have this triggered events here. And one of the things I wish I could do, this is what I hate about the custom inspectors. I haven't figured out how to do this. If it's not a custom inspector, I can double click here to open the script. I can't do that right now, and I want to find out how to get that functionality back. Wow, I don't want to be super anal with that, but I think that's 1 more pixel. It says that's at 34. So once we perfect this, we'll move to the next one, and then we'll get to testing. Let's see. All right, perfect. So check this out. We have our activation track, and you can pass in an object, and it's going to turn it on or off based on whatever the status is. Next is music. So let's go ahead and fix these sliders. All right, so the sliders need to come in a bit. So here's the fade out length slider. So let's make these maybe 70 for now. 70. See how that looks. All right, and I think this music is 1 pixel off too, so I'll fix that. Let's see. Okay, so this one is actually perfect, fade in length. Let's go ahead and get that one fade out working as well. So about 64. Oh, that is way too much. Let's see. Oh, maybe not. All right, just a tad bit more. 62. All right, I am happy with that. Now that technically that's 1 pixel off on the bottom one, so we're just gonna set this one to 69. And I think the event one as well, the music, yeah, music needs to come back 1. Although now I have it lined up with that. So actually, no, I'm gonna leave that, I think. We'll set it back. Music is going to be 79. All right, so we're just changing the pixel placement of these guys. All right, cool. I am happy with that. All right, so here we have, all right, so we have our activation track, we have our music, we have audio. So audio needs to get pushed in more. So maybe like 2 pixels. So if we look for audio here, let's go ahead and set that to about 82. And definitely not enough. Let's make it 85. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to revert the scene, and I'm actually going to delete all the triggered events that we're using for this boss, and we're going to recreate it, and I'm going to show you how easy this is going to be for Al to basically just plug and play this entire level for events. It's going to be amazing. So, all right, this looks good. Next, last but not least, we have animation, and that's already perfect. So, fantastic. Let me go ahead here. I'm going to delete the scene, and we're going to re-grab it. All right, so let me go ahead and just save everything here. I don't want to commit the scene, so I might just be able to revert it here. Let me see here, level 1 scene. And we're going to go ahead and revert that asset. Yes. All right, so we'll have everything else, but we're reverting the scene. And let me just message Al real quickly. Let me get him on Skype here. All right, tell him about to demonstrate plug and play. Let me see here. Hang on. Also, if you guys are on Facebook, you should go to facebook.com/GameDevHQ and follow it, because there's some awesome things coming out this week. All right, plug and play time. Let's see. Okay, so here's how this is going to work. We're going to reload the scene here. Right now we have triggers. We have 2 triggers here. We have one on gates have closed, and I believe once the gates have closed. All right. And, oh, you know what? There is one more I need to actually do, guys, before we actually test this. We have something that allows you to communicate with an object. So inside triggered events, I created an interface that you can attach to an object called iTriggerable, and it has a wake function. And Al can basically communicate with that script. So if he wants to, when the gates close, wake up the guard, basically what we can do is we can say, hey, the gates have closed. I want to talk to the guard script, and it's going to call the wake function on whoever it has. So we actually want to display that only if the communication option is set to game object, because I allow him to communicate with objects. So we're going to add that enum as well. So inside of our trigger events editor, we're going to basically add here at the very bottom of all of this information, we're going to say all of this. We're going to do it down here because we want to draw everything else first. And then we're going to basically set up right here. We're going to say trigger events.event type equals triggered events.event type. The event type, this is actually going to be communication type. All right, so we have communication type, and trigger events.event type is actually going to be communication object, communication option, I believe is the event. Let me see here. Yes, that is that's the field, and that is the object. Yes, okay, so we want this. So here we have a communication option, and it's going to be triggered events dot communication option. The enum is going to be communication option, and it's going to have either none or a game object. So here we're going to say communication option. All right, and check out what that looks like. Hey, Al, I'm about to demonstrate plug and play. I got one more thing to add for you, and then we'll get to it. So here in the next few minutes, if we look at the boss, boss area here on the guard boss, gates have closed trigger. Here we have an activation or whatever type. No matter what type we have, he can choose to set a communication type. So it's either going to be none or game object. Now, for whatever reason here, it was saying, that might have been my fault. Let me check here. I'm going to add a box collider 2D. Let's add a triggered event here. Al wants to create a music event. Okay, good. Communication option by default is none. When he sets it to true, I want to display additional information. Okay, so if he sets it to true, what do we want to do? We need to say here, if trigger events dot, we're going to say trigger events dot communication option equals trigger events dot communication option dot game object. We need to display information here, and the information that we're going to display is the object he wants to communicate with. So basically, we're going to add exactly this. We're going to add one of these. All right, so here we're going to say trigger events. We're going to say object, actually. It's going to be trigger events dot communication object equals the editor GUI layout object field events dot object. So the object he assigns in the inspector is going to get assigned to the script. The type is of game object. And then type is game object. All right, and then also, not only do we want to give him game object, but we can decide, hey, do you want to communicate with this object immediately, or do you want to add a delay from communicating? So we're going to add a field here. So we're going to say editor GUI layout dot float field. All right, and this is going to be, we're going to say trigger events dot delay, which is delay communication, equals the editor GUI layout float field, and we're going to pass in whatever it needs here. So we're going to say this is going to be what? This is going to be delay or communication delay, and we're going to give it the value. So here we're going to say trigger events dot delay communication is mapped to that. All right, let's save that, and then we'll customize how it looks based on the setting being game object. All right, and then we're going to revert the scene again. We're going to delete the current events, and we're going to set everything up here, and it's going to be super awesome. All right, so check this out. We have communication option. If it's none, there's nothing. If we select game object, he can then specify the game object. So we need to include something in here. So for starters, we're going to include, for the game object part, we want this to be inside a GUI, like a horizontal group. So we're going to say GUI layout. We're going to say GUI layout dot begin horizontal. And then we need an end horizontal. So GUI layout dot end horizontal. All right, and we have our game object thing there. I also want to add, though, a label. So we're going to say GUI label, GUI layout dot label, just like we did before. And we're going to say communication object. All right, and then after that, we want to add some spacing. So here we're going to say GUI layout dot space, and let's go ahead and just add like 60 pixels to start. Let's save that, and we'll see how that looks. Give me 1 second, guys. Just gonna browse over here for a minute. Let's see. Okay. Send something out. Okay, so check this out. All right, so here we go. And then how about this? What if, although no, we want him to be able to change it. So communication option is going to be with a game object. And because he chose that, we have a communication object. So he's going to specify the object. Let's go ahead and give him some spacing there. And actually, I'm just going to make it, we're going to remove the keyword communication here. This is going to be object. This is going to be delay. It'll look a lot better. All right, let's see how that looks. All right, and then once we clean this up out, I'm gonna demonstrate plug and play. So almost done. All right, that looks awesome. Let's go ahead and just bring that in a bit more, push it out. So here's the game object, maybe like 5 pixels, 65. And for the delay needs to delay is actually perfect. Think. All right, and let's try it. I might need to add some spacing to the delay. So close. So what is it, like 60, 68? Wow, literally no. All right, it's probably 70. Let's see. Okay, that looks actually perfect. I'm happy with that. All right, so here we go. So object, the object you want to communicate with, and then your delay. All right, and that only displays if you want to. Perfect. All right, guys, this system is complete. I'm going to revert the scene again, and we're going to delete everything and reset up how Al can use this in plug and play. So Al, you still there? All right, we're going to revert level 1 scene here. It's going to be so cool. All right, let's reload the scene. I'm going to remove the current stuff. I don't know if Al is still here. I hope he is. Let's see. So here we have our checkpoints. Here is our boss. Where's our boss? Area. Okay. We have gates. And gates have closed. All right, so we have 2 triggers here. We have this we have this closed gate trigger, and there's some things that need to happen. He wants to do animation and audio. All right, so what I'm going to do, he wants to do animation, audio, and it's shut gate clip. So I'm going to delete both of these, okay? The next thing here is we have this gates have closed trigger, and this has 2. We have audio on this, and then we have music. All right, so we are going to remove both of these. All right, so for this first one, hey, how's it going, Moku? All right, Alex, so here's how you do this. You created your goat closed trigger. All right, you're going to create our goat close gate trigger. We're going to select a triggered event to be on here. You can choose the event type. So we want one to be animation. You're going to drag the animator component that you want, which is our gates here. And if we look on this animator, we can find out the name of it. And the animation is called shut gate that we want to trigger. So we're going to go to close gate. We're going to type in shut gate. Do you want to communicate with any objects? The answer is no. All right. He wants to now add a sound effect to the gate closing when you trigger that. So we're going to add another triggered event. And this is going to be of type also, wow, I have to fix the spacing here. I'll fix that after the test though. That's going to be an audio clip. So Al can now assign an audio clip. Al, can you type in the audio clip to use? I don't remember. I think it's like 26. Here we go. I think it's this. Sweet Slam. Communication with objects? No. All right, so this one is set. We'll go ahead and save that. The next one that Al wants to set up here is gates have closed. So this is going to be a sound effect. So this is going to be a music transition. So we're transitioning from base game music to the boss music. And that music is going to be, Al, what's the music name? I don't even know. I think it's boss something. You have like multiple bosses. I think it's a 0.231. The Black Knight. So the fade out length of the current clip will say 4 seconds. The fade in length of the new clip will make that 1.29 seconds. Communication option. Does he want to communicate with an object? Yes, he does. And he wants to basically tell the guard AI to wake up. So we're going to say, hey, guard, you need to wake up. So we're going to say guard boss, drag it here. And do we want to add any delay? We're going to say wake up after 1.5 seconds. Okay, now that we've added that, Al, is there anything I'm missing here? I don't remember if there's another script on this. I don't think so. I think that's everything. I will have to fix it. Now that we have that, we can go ahead and test this out. All right, so let's go ahead and run. All right, and I think already it's playing the the default music for some reason, but we'll change it. So here, oh, here, you know what? There is one more thing, and I totally forgot this. So if Owl doesn't specify something, it waits for the player to trigger it. However, Owl actually wants the gate to trigger something. So there is something that I forgot to add. So the only thing that's going to work here is this collider, and we'll have to fix this one. So let's go and test it out though, so to make sure that this works for him. All right, let's go and run. I'm going to trigger this, and there you go. It played the sound effect and the animation. However, the other trigger didn't work because it's looking for the gate trigger. So I need to actually allow Owl to add that. All right, and I only want him to add that if the cause of the trigger is from the player. If it's not, he needs to specify an object that will trigger it. So Owl, based off what you saw, hopefully you enjoy that plug and play functionality and how everything just works, because it's amazing. All right, so let's go ahead and fix that up a bit. The first thing I want to do though is I'm going to fix this animation here. I need to bring trigger name back a bit. So it needs to come back like 6 pixels, 5 pixels. So where's trigger name? Okay, it's the width of trigger name. Is that right? Trigger name, yes. So the width of that area, it needs to be like what, 270? Sweet, Al likes it. Alrighty. Shut gate, maybe 272. All right, and then we need to make it so that he needs to assign what object is going to do it, and then for the night, he wants to communicate with the night object. So we're going to create, we got to test that functionality as well. And then the night should wake up, and we can actually begin our battle. So let's go ahead here. It needs to be like literally 1 more pixel, I think. Maybe 2 more. 274. Actually, I think it's 1 pixel. 273 probably. Let's see. Oh, you know what? That almost perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and say 273, and then I'll be happy. Pretty sure there's 1 pixel gap. Did that save? Did it do that? All right, I think that looks good. Oh, and actually, you know what? It is off 1 pixel, so it was correct before. So 274. All right, and then I'm good. So animation lens look good. The next thing to add here is we need to fix it so that if the player doesn't run into it, and then we need to allow Owl to specify, is this going to be a player trigger? Otherwise, we don't need to display it, right? So I'm going to have that be the first thing. So who triggers this? And by default, it's going to be the player. If it's not the player, we need to basically redraw this entire thing to support NPCs. Or whoever, entity objects, right? All right, everything looks amazing. Look at that. Audio, animation, let me put it back. Okay, so that's good. Let's go ahead and figure out how we want to draw this now. So for gates have closed here, 2 things happen. For starters, who triggers this? It's the gate, all right? So what I want to have here is, the first thing I want is who triggers this. So that's going to be a toggle bool. So inside of our triggered event here, we have logic that says if trigger collider is not null and other.getComponent collider, I'm going to change that whole functionality, okay? This needs to be updated. So instead, what we're going to be doing here is, the first thing here is we have animation events. We have public collider 2D trigger collider. That determines what collider is going to trigger the event. What we also want though is basically the first thing to be, hey, what is the status of this? So we're going to say public bool. We're going to say trigger caused by player. Or triggered by player. And that's going to be defaulted to true. Because in most cases, Al wants the player to trigger these events. Maybe not, but whatever. It's going to be true by default. And if he sets it to false, we're going to redraw the GUI. All right, so check this out. This is going to be so cool. Oh, right. Okay, it's not going to work. I need to now create the custom inspector for it. So here, before we draw the event type, we're going to say trigger events dot triggered by player is going to equal an editor GUI layout. All right, an editor GUI layout dot bool or field. What is it? How do we do bools? I don't remember. Oh, a toggle, right? It's toggle. So it's toggle, and then yeah, okay. So here we're going to say editor GUI layout dot toggle. We're gonna say, what do we want to call this? Right? This is going to be triggered by player, and we're gonna pass in the value of it. So trigger events dot trigger by player. All right, so whatever he does to the inspector gets assigned to the script. Really, really simple. All right, so let's see how that looks here. And there you go, triggered by player. Now, by default, it's gonna work. Now, what happens if you were to uncheck that? I wanna redraw this. So basically, we need to say underneath it, triggered object. All right, so object that triggers. So to do that, we are going to add an if statement here to draw. And we're simply going to say if trigger events dot trigger by player is set to false, then who's going to do it? We need to basically say here, we're going to say, we're going to create a begin layout group. So here we're going to say GUI layout dot begin horizontal. And GUI layout dot end horizontal. And inside here we have two things. We're going to have a GUI label, right? And we're going to have a object field, right? So really what we're going to do is we're going to have a GUI layout dot label. This is going to be object to trigger. All right, we're going to add some space here. So we're going to say GUI layout. Actually, I don't need to add space yet. Let's see how it looks. Then the next thing we're going to add is a GUI. We're going to say triggered events dot triggered object trigger collider equals the editor GUI layout dot object field. All right, so the object field here is going to be the trigger events dot trigger collider. So he's going to drag the collider there. It's going to be type of collider. Type of is going to be collider 2D. And then do we want him to be able to drag in a scene object? The answer is yes. And we have to cast this as a collider 2D. All right, let's see how that looks and see if it works. So we should be able to toggle this and display the information appropriately. Let's see. Here we go. All right, cool. So check that out. Triggered by player is true. If it's false, object to trigger. And you can add any collider 2D. So check this out. I can just drag this object to trigger it. And there you go. So the object that we want to trigger it is the gates. So I'm just going to drag the gates in there. Now, the gates actually don't have a trigger. It's gate A that I want. So close gate trigger is going to add gate A. Where is this? What just happened? Hold on. Gates of closed trigger is going to add gate A, just like this. Now, I can't add that object for some... Oh, gate A. Okay, wait. Why can't I add that? Okay, it's not gate A. It's the actual sprite that has the collider. So I want to get that object. So gates of closed, I'm going to take that object. That's going to trigger it. Object to trigger. It's going to be that object. And now if we run this, it should work. Now the functionality though is all screwed up. So what we want to do is support this. All right. So the functionality needs to now support that bool system. I know. Ow. Isn't it awesome? How insane is that? Triggered by player. If it's not triggered by player, the object to trigger. I know. It's beautiful. All right. I'm going to go ahead and just shrink in this box a bit. Let me do that too. Object to trigger. I'm going to say GUI layout dot space. Let's add like 5 pixels. Let's see, probably 10, honestly. Let's see. How does that look? So close, maybe like 2 more. Let's add like 7. So also, guys, when I go live and stream, you guys are welcome to ask any Unity related questions you want at any given time. Or questions in general. Let's see. Okay, this looks amazing. I'm happy with the spacing, although I'm not. 1 more pixel. All right, so we have object to trigger. We now need to change the functionality to actually support this. All right, and that's going to take literally 2 seconds to do. We're just going to check if that bool is true. We're going to check for this. If it's not, we're going to check for that object. Okay, this all looks good. And this is actually going to drive me a little crazy. I want the music to look proper. So let me see that. Here we have music. This needs to be like 78. We need to bring it back a bit. Wow, and actually all of this too. My God, I'm sorry, guys. Okay, I want to bring object to trigger in 1 more. So that's going to be 9. And then those length things need to come in. So like 3 and 5. So this is going to be 3. It's going to be 74. How was my first experience using Unity? Oh, dude, it was terrible. I started using Unity like day 1 that it became free, which was version 2.6. And it was the most confusing thing in the world. I didn't know what any of this editor stuff was. I came from a world of developing RuneScape private servers when I was 16. And that was just hundreds Java files and a compiler. I never worked with an editor. I didn't know what that was. So when I was like, hey, I'm going to give game making a try, dude, I was like, where the hell is the compiler? Where are the 100 files of Java? I didn't realize that Java at the time and C#, I didn't realize what object-oriented programming was at that time. So I didn't realize how easily they adapt to each other and they're similar. But the editor was so new to me. I didn't understand the concept of component-based designs. I didn't understand the fact that there was just scripts. I was like, how do objects communicate? I didn't understand communication. And that actually got me into creating my first YouTube videos, is that once I finally figured out, hey, I'm learning how to use this engine, there's got to be an easier way, right? So I created videos that demonstrate how to get started with Unity on YouTube, and those videos just rocketed and took off. It was definitely a struggle. But now, like today, my career is working directly with Unity technologies and creating these amazing official tutorials. So it's pretty cool. Let's see. All right, so this all looks perfect. Look how lined up that is. This one needs to come in 1 more pixel, the fade out length. That needs to come in 1 more, right? Yeah. So we're gonna say 66 here. Hey, what's up, Justin? How's it going, dude? All right, so Al, let's go ahead and fix the functionality, and then we'll be able to test out the object communication stuff and all that fun stuff. All right, so everything here looks phenomenal. Very happy with it. All right, so let's go ahead and we have to modify the triggered events code. So here's triggered events. we have this trigger by player is true. The current functionality is doing this, discussing this here to determine it. So we're going to rewrite this. So the way this is going to work is if triggered by player, we're going to say here if, let me see here, if triggered by player is set to true, then what needs to happen? If triggered by player equals true, then it's looking for the player. All right. So if triggered by player is true, we're going to check if it collides with the player. So here, if other.tag is equal to player. All right. And then we also want to make sure that it's only triggering once. So here we're going to say and has triggered equals false. All right. So if trigger by player is true, we're going to check for if other.tag equals player. What's wrong here? Whoops. If other.tag equals player and has triggered equals false, then what do we want to do? Let me just check that logic. One sec, guys. Okay, so if triggered by player is true, if other.tag is player and has triggered is false, we want to say has triggered equals true so that we can't trigger it twice. And then we want to go ahead. Let me just close this off. All right, so that's this here. There's an issue where we need to return this, and I don't recall what that is. Oh, right, it's for an object that doesn't hit it. Okay, so check this out, guys. If triggered by player equals true, if other.tag is player and has triggered equals false, then has triggered is true, and then we want it to basically go ahead and run this switch statement code and everything else in between. Now, what happens if that's false? So if triggered by player equals true, then it's looking for an object. So else, we're going to say else, we need to check if the triggered object matches what's in the inspector. So here we're going to say if other dot, we're going to say if other dot collider 2D, and we're going to say actually if other dot get component collider 2D. All right, if that equals the trigger collider, then that owl set in the inspector. Let me see here. And I think it needs to be if other.getComponents triggered collider, and it's not, and that's not the first time, right? So and has triggered equals false. We're gonna say has triggered is going to be true. And we'll delete this. Now what happens if it's not, right? So here, if triggered by player equals true, if the player hits it, has triggered is true, which is good. Else, we're gonna check for the other object, right? So if it's another object and it's not true, here we need a return. So if it's not the triggered object that we're looking for, we just want the code to return. So it should never actually get here if it's not the correct object. All right, let's go ahead and test this out. And this should work amazing. Lee. Okay, so object to trigger, again, that only gets assigned if Al wants it to. So triggered by player. If it's not, he has to assign it in objects. Let's go ahead and save this. I'm going to set the audio manager to play the correct sound. It's playing like whatever that is right now. Yeah, I'm just going to do this for now. Let's make it obvious what it is. Okay, let's run it. All right, so here's the music. Oh, whoops, what just happened? I don't know why that happened. So that would have happened because the logic isn't returning. So it's automatically starting, which means that this gate has closed trigger is getting called already, and it shouldn't. So things are just broken here. 1 second. If we look at this closed gate trigger, who triggers it? The player, right? So here, if trigger by player is true, oh, that's why. Okay. and has triggered equals false. We don't want to get in here. So here and that is all we need. All right, we're gonna say if triggered by player, else if other.get components and yada yada yada. That should be okay. Let's retest that. All right, and we'll go ahead and test both these scenarios. So after 1.5 seconds of all these triggered events, it should communicate with the AI that, hey, go ahead and wake up. All right, it looks like it wants to close already, and we're gonna find out why. Why? All right, let's see. Someone told this guy to wake up. So something here on close gate, it says triggered by player, which is correct. Gates have closed trigger. Okay. So to test this, let's find out who's coming through here. All right, so here we're gonna say right here, we're gonna say debug.log, who is other, and we're gonna pass in other.name. I need to find out what object is triggering this and how they're triggering it. All right, let's see. Can I run it? All right, so who is other is sprite, right? So here we have who is other is sprite. Now that called that. Now who is other is sprite here, and then, okay, so that's the only one, but the other animation is getting called. So somehow, let me see here. Oh, okay, yeah. So who is other is floor. All right. So the floor is triggering this, which is what what I'm talking about here. So the question is why? If it equals the trigger collider, then it's supposed to do has triggered, right? So this is a false condition. I don't know how it's actually getting in there, and it definitely shouldn't be. So it's colliding with the floor. If triggered by player equals true. So I want to get the value of that because I want to make sure that that toggle is working. So here, debug.log. The game looks like, is this a new level for the existing mobile Udemy course? Yes, yeah, this is Al just extending the level for course 3. Debug.log, let's go ahead and print out that information. Triggered by player. All right, triggered by player. All right, let's save that. Let's get that log. So somewhere in here, the floor is slipping through. And we basically just have to prevent it. So let's see, let's run it. Oh, guys, this sucks. Unity just crashed. Awful. All right, let's reopen that. All right, good thing we saved. So let me see here. How long is this stream going on for? Let's see. All right, I have no idea what this is. What just happened here? Where's my scenes? Let's go into level 1. Okay, here we go. Let's make sure everything is good. Okay, let me see here. In 1 second, guys. So, okay, cool. We're about the 2-hour mark too. So as soon as we get this working, we will go ahead and call this a day. All right, let's go ahead and run this, and we should see if it's triggered by the player. All right, so it closes. If we look at the close gate trigger, all right, so check this out. If we look at gates have closed, it's not looking for the player, which is correct, right? And here it says triggered by player is false. Triggered by player is true for those two. We got 2 of those because we do have 2 that are. And then we have 1 that is false. So triggered by player is false. So who is calling that one? This came from triggered events. Let's see. So on this guy here, this got called twice because it had 2 colliders on it. So the floor came through twice. You'll see that. So it got called twice, right? So that is correct. So it was false, which means that it would have went straight to here. And basically it thinks that the trigger collider that we're looking for matches the collider of the other. Now the reason for that is because all I'm doing here is looking for collider 2D type. That's the issue. That's anything. Anything with a collider matches my collider, right? That's not what we want. What we actually want is to see if the other collider, although that should match this collider. I think it's just taking the type though. I need these colliders to check for each other. Because essentially what's happening here is any collider that matches what's here is matching it. So if you have 2 squares, they're gonna match, right? That actually needs to be the object though. That should be the object of what we put in there. I don't know why that isn't. So that leads me to believe that the event editor is broken. So if we look here, we're saying events trigger collider equals the object field, the trigger collider that we pass in. Let's get the name of the triggered collider that it's looking for. So we know that we're getting inside this else statement here. And what we want to do here is say debug.log. We want to say, what is my trigger? And I want to say, let's see, what is my trigger? We're going to say trigger by player, or not trigger by player. We're going to say, what is it? Trigger collider dot name. And then here we're going to say debug.log who hit me, and we're going to say plus other.getComponent collider 2D type. And I'm going to get the name of who hit us. So that's going to tell me if there's a comparison issue here, which I think there is. So far in the development of the game, what's been the most difficult part of the project? Ooh, great question. The most difficult part is the AI. AI is never easy. It's always complex. In the course, I try to teach a very simplistic version of AI, but really there's so much more. And there's going to be extended content for doing more complex AI systems. You'll see here the boss is completely animator driven. And we basically just trigger some functionality through animation events. So when it comes to AI and creating like boss battles, that's probably the most difficult task. Everything other than AI though is very fun and enjoyable. All right, so check this out. Who is other is Axslam, who is other is guard boss. Here we go. So who hit me is the axe throw. And who is other? So is axe throw. Axe throw is somehow triggering it. So here we go. So triggered by player is set to true from there. The floor hit it twice. So triggered by player is false. That's what we're looking for here. My trigger is looking for sprite. Who hit me is floor. I have no clue how that is actually triggering it right now. So it really should not be, because it knows the correct information. It knows that my trigger is the sprite. So why would that be the case? Who hit me as the floor? All right, and what I want to do here is we're going to trigger that only when this actually gets called. Because we're not getting into that return statement. And we need to be. So I had this issue when I first created this, and now we kind of rewrote some functionality. Let's see. All right, here we go. Here, let's rerun it. Okay, so here we can pause it. Triggered by player is true for the 2 inside. Who is the other? It's floor. Triggered by player is false. And then what is my trigger? Okay, check this out. This is interesting. What is my trigger is sprite, and who hit me is sprite. So that is actually correct behavior. That is now correct. The question though is, so what's triggering that? So something else is triggering that, which leads me now to believe it's this. So this is looking for players. Interesting. Those animations seem to be like occurring on their own somehow. So if we open up this gates animator, if we look at the boss gate here, it's going straight to no movement, and then we trigger it to go into shut gate. So something is causing, something's like automatically playing that animation. So let's see here. Inside here, we're gonna add another log, and I wanna do that here. Who is calling it? Because someone else is like calling this, and I don't know why. The floor is triggering it, and it should not be triggering it. So I think if we look here, we might see that the floor called it. And I should actually name this to, here, we're gonna name this to debug.log who triggered animation. And we're gonna look for that. So we're gonna say other.name for who triggered the animation. All right, we'll save that. Why don't you attach a debugger instead of using log messages? Because there's nothing for me to debug profiler wise. It's not a performance issue. I could add like breakpoints using Visual Studios or MonoDevelop, but it's not necessarily gonna help me in this point. Although I could actually, you're right, I could actually check other in the breakpoints, but it's just good to use logs just because it's just easier. Less confusion. Also, I'm on 2018.2, and if I attach the debugger, it will probably crash and I have to restart. All right, so check this out. Who triggered the animation? Check that out. Axe Slam. All right, so the Axe Slam is causing a lot of problems here. Basically, the Axe Slam triggered the animation. So the question here is why? And the reason for that is Axe Slam got through. So let's pretend you're the Axe Slam, right? What is the if trigger by player is true and has triggered equals false. And actually this is what needs to, oh, that's why, guys. Sorry, this all needs to be in line. Check that out. And other.tag equals player. That's why. Because if it wasn't the player, it was just instantly going here. So that is why. We can now remove this. So if it's not the player, okay, it's going to go into the else statement. If it's not the matching trigger, it's going to call the return. All right, now this should work. Man, what a pain in the ass that was. Sorry about that, guys. All right, this should totally work now. Sweet. All right, let's go and get our music back here. Where is our game? Oh, here we go. All right, so check this out. We're gonna go ahead and trigger this. All right, it triggered, and then 1.5 seconds later, he's gonna wake up and our battle begins. And you'll see here that all of the triggers that Al would have set up work just fine. All right. So we got our mouse. So again, we can go ahead and test that out. All right, so inside of our gates of close trigger, we have an event type of music that's triggered by that, and it communicates with the guard to wake him up. And closed gate has two triggers. We have an animation for the gates to close and an audio sound to play. So after all this, everything is good here. Also, Al has an audio track for gates have closed for when they slam shut. So he would just add another triggered event here, and this is going to be of type audio. And the event type is not triggered by players, so we can uncheck that and assign it the sprite here. And then we can give it the audio clip, which I think is like slam or something like that, dark slam. All right, and that will work. All right, so we'll go ahead and trigger that again. All right, and then I'll show you guys all this cool stuff we have set up on this boss. So we're gonna trigger it. He wakes up, he's gonna pound his chest. All right, he's gonna do these like jump attacks now. All right, and then he's gonna charge, and you can jump over him. And then it repeats. And then eventually, once you kill him, and I died. But if you kill him, he has a death animation and all that fun stuff. And if you continue with an ad, it should restart that. So something in there broke, but Al, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to probably revert the scene, Al, and just commit the scripts. All right, so you have to on your end fix up everything. So I'm going to revert the scene, and then I'll commit the scripts. All right, guys, so that was creating a custom editor for our triggered event system that allows Al to go throughout the entire level and just do plug and play everywhere he wants. Very, very cool system. All right, and if you're just tuning in, guys, you can check out what we created here. You can see here if I just simply add a box collider, and we'll add a triggered event. And this needs to be a box collider 2D. All right, you'll see here. All right, you'll see here that we have animation events, audio events, music events, and activation events. And we created custom inspections or custom inspectors that only that only display based on what it is. So if he's not communicating with an object, he doesn't have those fields. If he wants to do an audio track and communicate with an object, he gets those properties. If it's not triggered by player, he can specify it. So all this is done through custom inspectors. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up the stream. Hey, what's up, Bruce Wayne? Ryan, I think that's our community manager, Ryan. Other than that, though, guys, we are set. So if you guys have questions, you can let me know. This is a great example of how to polish something up for a great tool that allows a designer to plug and play. So Al is going to have a blast using this system. So I'm really happy with the design of it, and everything looks amazing. Very cool. All right, so let me see here. Yeah, I'm just like touching everything. I don't know what I'm doing here. Let me go ahead. I need to revert this scene again. Let's see here. Triggered events. Here, I'm going to save the scene. And then I need to undo it. All right. So if we actually look at this, this should automatically already work for how Al has everything set up. He shouldn't actually have to change anything. If we select the boss area, it should already have, hopefully, the information. So it does. It's already set up for animation and audio. And then here, gates have closed. So he will have to fix this one. Gates have closed because it's triggered by player. Oh, no, you don't. Okay, there you go. It's already set up for him. All his values and everything like that, he doesn't have to do anything. So I'm actually going to save this. And let's go ahead and commit everything. Added custom editor for event triggers. So he has a total plug and play system here. All right, guys, if there's no more questions, I will see you guys later. Everyone, enjoy your 4th of July if you're in the States. I will see you guys later. Hi, my name is Jonathan Weinberger, and I've been developing games with C# and Unity for the last 6 years. I've helped thousands of developers learn to code and improve their skill sets. I currently teach game development on Udemy, an online marketplace for courses. Udemy has over 17 million students learning everything from game development to piano or cooking. Enjoy courses on any device and at your own pace with lifetime access. My course, The Ultimate Guide to Game Development with Unity, is designed to teach you the fundamentals of C# programming in Unity. We'll cover everything from receiving user inputs to creating destructible objects. By the end of this course, you'll make 2 high-quality games you can share with the world. This course is for anyone who wants to learn game development or refine their technique. Whether you're interested in game development as a hobby or you want to make games professionally, this course will grow your programming skill set and help you go on to make your own games and applications. Click on the link in the bottom left of the video player to access a special discount for this course. I look forward to teaching you more about game development with Unity and C# on Udemy.